Hey everybody, welcome back to Q-Tips. We are the Video Store Junkies, and we're back once again to bring you a few selections to watch over the weekend on streaming. And I know I said last week that everybody was fired, but I didn't really mean it. Apparently, Zachary and Paul took that literally as they are not here today. So I'll pass it to you, Bill.
Yeah, I guess you really don't have too much choice. Well, hi, Renee.
Mhm.
Glad to see you showed up at least. You
Yes,
take your job seriously.
that's right.
Because I mean, we search, we do all this work searching for films that are available for streamings that people can watch it and learn. Give our tips and everything. And I take that very seriously. So seriously that my first pick is not actually available for streaming. I thought it was. But I just searched and I can't find it. Nevertheless, I'm going to talk about because this really is. I love horror, I love science fiction, I love fantasy. But if I had to pick my top 10 and very likely my top 5 favorite films, I'm not sure that horror or science fiction would be in the majority. And in fact, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't because I can't imagine not including Godfather, Spartacus, and this film, which is
Mm.
Angels with Dirty Faces from 1938. It's a gangster film. It's
Oh,
got um, it's got James Cagney, Humphrey Bogart, although Humphrey Bogart surprisingly has a fairly small role in it, and the Dead End Kids, which we'll get to later. So this amazing film, directed by Michael Curtis, who also did Casablanca. So we're talking not a guy that people talk about the way they talk about Hitchcock and everything, but damn, he made a lot of great films, and knew what he was doing. But I don't know, his films don't have that stamp that lets you know, like when you're watching a Hitchcock film, you're watching a Hitchcock film. I love Hitchcock,
mhm.
but he has a very distinctive style. And Curtis, I don't know, he didn't get in the way of the story. He did it in a way that didn't scream a Michael Curtis film. But okay, so the premise is we open up. It's the 1930s. It's the Depression. Everything's horrible. These two poor kids are trying to rob like some stuff off a rail car or something, and the cops come up and they chase them, and the one kid gets away and the other one doesn't. And so the guy, the one who got away, visits his friend in reform school and says, "I'll tell him I was in on it too." And young James Cadney says, "What are you crazy? Nah, don't worry about it. I'll take the rap. It's okay." And then
Mm.
they grow up, and the one boy who got caught grows up to be James Cagney, who spent a lot of time in prison because he took the rap for the mob later on. And the other one grows up to be Pat O'Brien, Nathan Begora. He's a priest. I mean, they
Oh,
just went in two completely different directions. One's a gangster, one's a priest. They still love each other, still good friends.
mm.
And Agnew gets out of jail and immediately goes to the mob guys who had promised him $100,000, which is like $2 million now, if he took the rap. And now they have absolutely no intention to pay him back. They're just going to wipe him out. But he's James effing Cagney, and yeah, he gets the drop on them, gets a ledger, and is just basically calling the shots, slapping him around, just being his absolute James Cagney. At the same time, he's reestablishes friendship with his friend Pat, and there's these kids who hang out with the priest, the Dead End Kids, a bunch of little street urchins, just
Mm.
a bunch of lovable little scamps, and poor kids who could go either way. And he's the father, Pat O'Brien's trying to be a good influence to them, but of course they idolize James Cagney because who wouldn't?
Mm.
Stuff happens, all kinds of
Uh-oh.
things happen. There's all kinds of great goodness. Now, the ending of this movie, no lie, is quite possibly my favorite ending of any film ever. Um, Cagney is on death row. Yeah, shit got bad, and Father O'Brien shows up and he tells him, are you okay? Are you ready to face what's going to happen? And Cagney's like, yeah, it doesn't bother me, dirty screws. I'm going to spit in their eye right before they fry me. Yeah. Okay, I'm doing
Uh,
Edward G. Robinson there. Never mind. Um,
I love it.
and so Pat O'Brien says, look, I know I'm asking a lot, but at the last minute, did you just like turn into a complete chicken shit so that the kids don't grow up idolizing you? And Cagney's like, what the hell, man? You're telling me to turn yellow? Take away my dignity? It's the only thing I have left, and that's what you want to take from me? and have everyone think that I was a coward. And he's like, well, I'll know and you'll know and God will know. It's like, yeah, nothing doing, yeah. So they go through this whole sequence. Man, I don't know if Death Row is really like this, but it's so cool. The slow walk to the electric chair. This is all in black and white, low lighting, just really great. And the priest keeps asking him, please. I'm like, nah, nothing doing. Then the last thing we see is, he just walks past the camera and the priest is saying his prayers. And then in silhouette, just in shadows, we hear this screaming as suddenly he's begging for his life. And they have to
Mm.
literally tie his hands from the radiator and drag him to the chair and strap him in and throw the switch so that, he dies in mid scream. And then the priest goes back and the kids are like, hey, they're saying he died yellow, say it isn't true. And he's like, it's true, boys. That's how it went. So the priest is actually lying because he knows the truth, but it's for the greater good. And then he leads them away and says, let's go say a prayer for a little boy. I'm choking up here. I'm not kidding you.
Mm.
He goes, let's say a prayer for a little boy who couldn't run as fast as I did. He
Oof.
realized literally there, but for the grace of God, that the two roles could have been switched. So,
Mm.
this film actually has some pretty sneaky social commentary in it too, in addition to everything else. But holy fuzzballs crap, that ending is such a gut punch. It is so good. Everyone is on their A game in this film. It is absolutely marvelous. Well, I don't know how you can find it. You can find bits and pieces. I mean, they have the whole ending on YouTube. They even have a colorized version if you're like a monster. But where you can actually find it for real, I don't know. But
Mm.
if you haven't seen this, I'm sure it's on TCM every other weekend or so, whenever they do
All
Cagney Week.
right.
This is just one of the greatest movies ever made, without question. Angels with Dirty Faces. And
Mm.
when we get to my next pick, which you can see, we'll talk about how this influenced some other things. And gee, who should I throw this to? I don't know. I guess Renee.
Yeah. One of the other dedicated people in this group.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. So, my next recommendation, now this is one that I have admittedly recommended before. That said, it was over 2 years ago. So, this movie is from 2017 and it is called The Endless. It is
Hmm.
directed by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, and they also star in the movie. They are a couple of brothers who also go by the names Justin and Aaron, keeps things very easy. Um,
Hmm.
they had escaped a UFO death cult when they were younger, and it's probably been maybe like 10 years or so later, they get this videotape in the mail, which it doesn't really insist that they come back, but it sort of just makes them think that they really need to kinda come up there and, tie up some loose ends and just make sure that everything is good, make sure they made the right decision, all that good stuff. This movie is just it's really, really interesting. It is very unique. The story itself, I think, is very original. It's very thought provoking. It has a great atmosphere and it's really very engaging. So, yeah, these guys, they get back to the camp and they find out that things are just kind of odd. The cult members that they left behind are still there. They appear to be doing really great, but maybe a little too great. And just lots of really strange and bizarre things are happening that they have to deal with and try to figure out if they have made the right decision with leaving this little family that they once had. So yeah, this movie is called The Endless, and you can watch that on Tubi or Peacock or Roku or Canopy. And on that note, I will pass it back to you, Bill.
Well, thank you, Renee. Okay, so if you get to see Angels with Dirty Faces, you probably might be wondering, I wonder what happened to those little rapscallions, the dead end kids or whatever they were. And here's the thing. This is part of a series. Angels with Dirty
Mm.
Faces is just the absolute best of the dead end kids. It's about, these kids and the things that happened. They made 8 films with the dead end kids. And then they spun it off into they went to a cheaper place and became the East Side Kids
Hmm.
from 1940 to 1945. And they made 22 films.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then during a contract dispute or something, they went to another place and became the Bowery Boys. From 1946 to 1958, these preteen kids hung out at Pop's Soda Shop and had wacky adventures. Now, let's check that again. Angels of Dirty Faces came out in 1938, and the last Bowery Boys movie came out in 1958.
Huh.
These kids did this for 20 years, and none of them were really kids when I mean, they were maybe 12, 14 years old or something. So by the end of this, these guys are in their 30s and they're still pretending to be like Archie and the gang, just hanging out,
Aw.
not having any real jobs, and just it's funny watching them. And they're still acting the same way.
Hmm.
I just admire the hell out of that. You can get away with murder if you just believe in the premise. And so what I'm recommending is not any one particular film. I'm recommending all of these because by my counting, we've got 8 Dead End Kids, 22 East Side Kids, and 48 Bowery Boys. That's 78 movies. That is
Holy
in
Jiminy.
and yet whenever I see them talking about, like long running series, James Bond has 27 flippin' films. Whoop da hip and who. That's nothing. That's nothing. Bowery Boys, just the Bowery Boys got that beat, much less the Dead End Kids and the East Side Kids. Godzilla's got 36. Now, okay, good, but no Bowery Boys. Okay, now
Wow.
Wong Fei Hung has 123 films. So, the Chinese, yeah, they must have released like
Mhm.
one of those a week. And I guess if you do Hopalong Cassidy, if you assume Hopalong Cassidy played the same character in every movie, yeah, I think he probably had a pretty good number too. But this is one of the greatest, longest running series of all time. Now, which one am I
Hmm.
recommending? It doesn't matter. They are all the same damn movie. Absolutely the same movie. The kids, the boys, who apparently I don't know how they support themselves. They just hang out in Pop's store, and then some gangsters, occasionally Nazis, but mostly gangsters, show up and start causing trouble, and they go and investigate in their semi-incompetent way, and they get captured, and then they escape, and it ends in a big fight where they just nail the camera down and let these guys just pretend to punch each other and break away chairs over their head. And it became so routine. These things are so routine that actually became a running joke where whenever they're captured and the guy, we're going to take them out and shoot them. And one of the Bowery Boys, Hunts Hall or Leo Gorsey, the two main guys, are like, yeah, this kind of reminds me of Routine 7. And everyone just looks blankly at him and goes, Routine 7, I say. And they're like, oh, Routine 7. I don't know. These guys don't look like they could remember anything, but I guess they've got all these routines down. Although, frankly, Routine 7 just looks like variations of start punching faces. Yeah, that's it. They'll clap, they'll do patty cake or something, and then right when it's like Baker's man, and they punch the guy in the face because he was just fascinated watching these man boys doing this, just wondering what the hell have I stumbled into? Why is this 40-year-old talking about, dating a girl in high school, he never graduated. I don't know. When I was a kid, I loved these. They're all about 60 minutes long. They do not wear out their welcome. They were the B side on something. You would back in the day. My dad would tell me this. You'd go there. Your parents would drop you off with like a quarter, and you'd buy some candy and a big thing of popcorn, and then you'd sit down and there was a newsreel so you knew what was going on in the world. There was a Bugs Bunny cartoon if you were lucky, and a Woody Woodpecker if you weren't, probably a couple. They might show a serial, The Adventures of Captain Marvel. It always ends with a cliffhanger that he couldn't possibly get out of, but next week he does. And then they would show the B movie like a Bowery Boys, and then they'd show for a quarter, you were probably getting then an A picture, but one that actually played about 6 months earlier. You weren't there at the premiere.
Mm.
But that sounds like a full day of entertainment. Boy, you got the kids out of your hair for a whole day for a quarter. Oh,
Man.
man. Yeah. Oh, those were good times. Those were good times. So they're all over the place. They're very formulaic. The humor is pretty dated, but I don't know. I just find them comforting. There's just
Mm,
something. It's like it's like when you're a little kid and you watch Barney or Scooby Doo, and you realize basically every episode is the same as every other episode. But that's what you want.
mhm.
The world's a scary, uncertain place. But at least you can be happy knowing that the monster's going to turn out to be Uncle Al wearing a rubber mask or something. And I just love
Oh.
these little formulaic films out there, these series which have been completely forgotten.
Mm.
Although I think what happened is they sold all the Bowery Boys movies to Channel 11. And so they actually had every Saturday morning at like there was the Bowery Boys movie, an Abbott and Costello movie, and then a horror movie.
Huh.
And yeah, that was my morning. Depending on
That
which movies they were, I would watch every single one of them. I've seen them all, every one of them. And
that's
I
fantastic.
realize for all their flaws, you got to be doing something right to make 78 freaking films. I cannot emphasize that enough. 78 movies.
Mm.
Wow. Yeah,
Mm-mm-mm.
that
Man.
absolutely something. Now the story behind, the behind the scenes stuff is a little sad, toward the end, Leo Gorcey, who was the main guy, became a severe alcoholic, and yeah, it's a lot of stuff. A lot of these things ended poorly. Abbott and Costello ended poorly too. It's a tough business,
Yeah.
you know. And yet you're soaring high for all those years, and then when things get a little lean, you're kind of used to living the good life, and it's hard to ratchet down. But yeah, but I still love those things. So there you go. The Bowery Boys are on YouTube. I don't know if anyone owns the rights to them anymore. These look like films that very quickly no one would remember to send in the renewal. But those are available. And keep an eye out for Angels with Dirty Faces. And I send this back to the lovely Renee.
Well, thank you so much. Okay. I've got one for you. Oh, actually,
Uh-oh.
I forgot to mention this at the end of The Endless. The Endless intertwines with a movie called Resolution that is made by the same
Hmm.
directors. Yeah, it's really cool the way those intertwine. And I was going to make Resolution my second recommendation. However, I stumbled upon this little beauty,
Uh-oh.
and I think you're gonna like it. Okay, let's see how long it takes you to get this because I know you're gonna know this. What do you get when you mix Doug McClure with a young John Ratzenberger and some amazing haircuts and super futuristic human type alien people? Anything?
Oh.
Well, this movie is called what is this movie called? This movie is called Warlords Warlords of
Atlantis.
Atlantis.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Oh my god. Okay, gosh. All right, let me get the premise out of the way first. These sailors are on an expedition when they accidentally, you can't see my air quotes, stumble upon the lost city of Atlantis, which happens to be ruled by this super advanced group of people, and you can tell they're super advanced because of their outfits and their haircuts. Anyway, their whole goal is to turn these humans into like fish people slaves. And the the people are like,
Sure.
"Hey, we got to get out of here before, we start growing gills." And of course, on the way out, they just run into all sorts of monsters and equipment failures and all sorts of terrible things that you can run into. This movie is so ridiculous. Okay, it came out in 1978, which was the same year as, say, Invasion of the Body Snatchers or Halloween or one of the movies I know you love, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Oh yeah.
Um, uh, but it really has, like, that '60s kind of monster movie vibe, and it's just so I don't know, there's something that I really kind of like about it. It's just charming. They really capture that vibe. The
Mhm.
sets are great, the practical effects are great, then the puppets and just so good. But then there's, like, the sound effects, which are so ridiculous. Like, this lizard monster is making cheetah noises. It's so great.
Huh.
Oh, but it's fun.
Well, who's to say what a lizard monster would sound like, right?
That is a good point. That is a good point. Oh god. So yeah, it's fun. There's some really just the dialogue is a lot more entertaining than I expected it to be. It was just goofy and enjoyable, and I thought it was fun, and I think everybody should watch it. And this movie is called Warlords of Atlantis, and where else do you think you can watch this movie? But of course, Tubi.
To be.
For the weekend of November 17th, Bill recommended Angels with Dirty Faces. I have no idea where you'll find this, but if you can, you should watch it. And the Bowery Boy series. You can find this on Tubi and YouTube. I recommended The Endless, available on Tubi, Peacock, Roku, and Canopy. And Warlords of Atlantis, available on Tubi.
Stop us now. I'm gonna give you all my love the whole night through. All my love always. I love you in every way. Forever and every day. I'll take you all the way. All my love always.
And the strike is over.
Yes, yes, thank
Yeah,
God.
so we won't get inundated with even more reality shows.
It means Marvel has basically said we're just taking 2024 off. They moved all their movies back, which also gives them the time to maybe wonder what the fuck they're doing wrong. They may end up killing a few films. It wouldn't surprise me if some of the ones they've shot they just quietly dribble off into,
Ooh,
you know.
now that would be interesting. Has that happened a lot over time?
Oh, they've had. Well, no. That's really unusual. It's just that the difference is now movies are so expensive
Yeah.
that they can take a write-off. You know, they planned on. They made this movie called Coyote versus Acme, or Acme versus Coyote, and it was a funny bit about the Coyote suing the Acme company because of all the.
Oh my
defective
god.
things. It's basically a Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's got live action and animated. And everyone I've told this idea to has said, "Oh, that sounds hysterical." Apparently,
Right.
it tested in the 90s.
Wow.
It's done. It's completely done. 100% done, ready to be released. And Warner's announced that they were going to shelve it and take a $30 million write-off.
Wow.
It cost $80 million to make, which frankly is not that bad for a film of that scope, where you're doing, it's all special effects. I mean, everything is special effects. But they just got gun shy. They did it. So they did that to Batgirl. They did it, a Scooby-Doo, another Scooby-Doo movie that they're done with. And the way it works is they shelve these forever. They can never be shown. Once you take the tax write-off, you can't turn around 10 years later and release it.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, these filmmakers are like, I just 2 years of my life to this, all these people working on it, and now you're just going to write it off. Apparently, they've
Oh.
gotten so much pushback on this one that they're now saying, no, the director is allowed to shop it around. Doesn't mean he'll
Oh.
succeed, but I think he will. I think it's gotten enough press because apparently a bunch of filmmakers who were having talks with Warner Brothers, shopping their films around, basically canceled. They just said, yeah, let's not even. I do not want to take the chance of them doing this shit.
Wow.
So it's hurt Warner Brothers a bit. Good, serves them right.
Yeah, right. Huh. That's interesting. And I feel like maybe because you mentioned a couple, but do you think there's enough of those that we could do like a little mini episode of eternally shelved movies?
Hmm. I don't know. It's so rare. It's so rare for that to happen because before it was usually this. There's two reasons why it happens. The movie, they have no faith in the movie whatsoever. That it's going to
Mhm.
bomb. Why are we even wasting time marketing that? But you can just release it into a few theaters and then dump it on video if you really think it stinks.
Mhm.
Theodore Rex would be one of those. A terrible Muppet movie with Whoopi Goldberg, where it's a cop movie where her partner is a
Oh
Muppet
god.
Tyrannosaurus Rex. It cost a fortune. It cost tens of millions of dollars and did not get released in one theater. Just showed up on video, and you're like, "Wow, this looks pretty
Oh,
pricey for
no.
one of the biggest box office bombs of all time." But at least they released it. I mean, you might as well get something, 1 or 2 weekends
Yeah.
at Blockbuster. You're not gonna
Yeah.
make your money back, but now, I guess the way the tax thing now we're talking movies that just cost so much money and the marketing in addition to that, that they figure, "We wish we'd never made it." That's
Mm.
one reason, but the other reason is that when much like when a new male lion becomes the king of the pride, he kills the young cubs that were there.
Mm.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. Basically what Scar did. And, when a new when a new studio head takes over, any films that are in production are orphans. They're not his. If they succeed, he gets no credit. So as far as he's concerned, fuck him.
Yes.
There's usually a mass cancellation of things that are in the works, and some things that are done just get abandoned. And because he's ready to make his mark, and the only way to make his mark is to save any of the marketing that we were going to spend on that last guy's film, and we're going to spend it on my film. So that's another
Oh,
reason why it sometimes happens.
damn. I have
I
heard
hate
stories
Hollywood.
like that about, actors or whatever would talk about something they've got in
Right.
production. Yeah, and then so and so comes along.
Yeah, and you're thinking
Ugh,
sour grapes, but no, it's true. You would
yeah.
think these people they're just you think they're just there to make money. I don't care how I make money, it's going to put $1 million in my pocket, but no, no, the status, because it's an art form and a business, and two just don't meld together very well. And there's so much money and so much prestige. They make
Mm.
movies that they know will not make money because they might win Oscars. How
Hmm.
many how many other businesses are there? How long would a plumbing company stay in business if they were only worried about getting the plumber of the year trophy at the end of the year?
Right.
You know,
Right.
means nothing, but the Academy Award does mean something. That's
Yeah.
they're searching for immortality, and
Really?
that's the way to
Yeah.
do it. That's why
Oh,
they put up
man.
with Harvey Weinstein shit for so long, because
Lord.
he was an Oscar maker.
God, no kidding. Isn't that terrible?
It is
Oy.
terrible. Oh well. All right,
Yeah.
I'm ready. Enough of
He's
me
doing great.
babbling. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Oh, man, the cover art for Theodore Rex reminds me of Tammy and the T-Rex with the twist of that dinosaur show.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, man.
I haven't watched Tammy and the T-Rex. I've been saving it for a time when I had, because I know I'm gonna love it. I can
Yeah.
tell just by the premise.
It's so ridiculous. Yeah, I think you like it. That's amazing. That is so bizarre. Very rarely are times when I've seen a movie that you have not. Like that's not, like some wacky 90s movie or something. But that's interesting. Oh, I love it.
There's a few out there that I'm saving for the right time. Where I'm not multitasking. That time is not
Oh,
coming very often. I usually
yes.
have to watch something while I'm doing something else, and there are some films,
Yes.
like if there's a Mario Bava film I haven't seen yet, there's a couple, and I'm not going to give that a half. That's a sit down and watch it and weep at the fact that my unseen Bava films are dwindling.
Oh god, it's so true. Yes, it's like the last season of certain shows. Like I will
Right,
refuse
right.
to watch for the longest time.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man. Okie dokie. All right. Hey everybody, welcome back to Q-Tips. We are the video store junkies.